Hey everybody, and welcome back to Mission Control for a quick tips video. In this video, we're going to talk about palette types. Titan has three palette types that let you know what information the palette contains. The palette information may be global, shared, or normal. Global, palettes work on any type of fixture. Shared, palettes apply the same value to all fixtures of the same type. For example, when setting colors, the red palette would set the same color values for red to all BMFL fixtures, including fixtures added later. Normal palettes are used when each fixture requires its own value. For example, when programming positions, each fixture will have a different setting or a red and blue color palette. It is possible when merging information into palettes to create a palette which contains global, shared, and normal attributes. You can know what type palette is by the upper right hand corner. We'll have a G, an S, or an N, or a combo of all three. As you can see here in the top row, we've got a global palette that is positioned, so any fixture that had a ability to go to a position wouldn't, however, work on, say, a LED par can. Next one in the center on the top row, we've got a shared palette. This would take it that any fixtures that are in that same type would be able to go to that color of green. The next one we have is a normal palette, which you can see is by the fade of colors. It can only be normal as each fixture takes its own color value. On the bottom row, we see we've got a global, shared, and no color. It means that it contains global and the shared information. Then we've got a shared normal, which contains shared and normal information. And the last one, we've got a global, shared, and normal, which means it contains all three. Palette types can be set in the following ways. When quick recording, this is double tap an empty palette handle. This is set by the console automatically by the information that is in the programmer by default. In user settings, under the palettes tab, you can set the minimum palette mode to be global, shared, or normal. Using the long recording method, by pressing the record key and then the palette hard key and on soft key C, you can set between global, shared, and normal. So let's take a look at that. Here I am on version 15 of Titan on the Titan Go interface. You see here I've got just a little show file set up with three fixture types and a few palettes already here. So you can see I've got some blades, some Mac Auras, and some Mythios, and I've got a no color global palette, a shared yellow palette, a normal palette with a color fade, a global shared palette that's red, a shared normal palette that's kind of green and a mix of blue that we'll see, and we've got a global shared and normal palette. So here I got a little playback. It just takes our fixtures and puts them in red and a position kind of fanned out. So if we were to tap our global palette, even with no fixtures selected, we can see that all our fixtures that can go to no color do, which in this case is everything. If I was to tap my shared palette, we can see that just my BMFLs go yellow because if we view the palette, that's the only thing it contains information for, is our BMFL. If we were to tap our normal palette, we can see that it only changed our BMFLs to the color fade because, again, that's the only thing it contains information for, is our BMFLs and their different fixed color values to get our color fade. If I was to tap our global shared, we can see that everything goes back to red because it contains information in globally and shared. So if we were to view that one, we can see that it has this information for the BMFLs, this information for Sharpies, this information for Mac Auras, and globally it has this information. If we tapped our normal shared, we can see that most of our fixtures go green, but some of them go blue because it has global in the green, however, it has a normal palette for our blue. So if we review that palette, we can see here that it's got the information individually for our fixtures as well as the shared. If we tap our global shared and normal, we see that some of our fixtures go yellow ambery and some of them go to more of a red and yellow. If we were to view that palette, we see that it contains information for the BMFLs shared, the Mac Auras shared, a global of that, as well as individuals for the BMFLs, which is how we end up with the red and the normal. Just to view our other palettes, if you're yellow, we can see that it only has the information for our BMFLs. And if we were to view our global, we can see it just has global with the color values to make no color. Let's see the different methods for recording palettes. If we were to say, we'll go ahead and drop the playback, we'll select our BMFLs, and we'll give them a locate, and then we'll just make a magenta like this. And it's just double tap an empty palette, We see it automatically makes it global shared by default. If I was to say, select my odd BMFLs, and we'll make those red, and then we'll take our even ones and we'll make them more blue. And then I was to double tap an empty box, end up with a normal palette. If I was to use the long record method, say I'll go ahead and select all of my fixtures here and give them all a locate, and we'll just make magenta. It'll do that. And then I'll just hit record, and then palette. Here on soft key C, I can see I can set it to be a normal palette, a global palette, a shared palette, and then back around to normal. So as I double tap an empty box now, you can see it ends up with the global shared. If I did it again and set it to be just shared, we see now I end up with the shared palette. And if I do it one more time, I set it to normal, we see that I now have a normal palette. I can also in user settings change it to default. So I take my user settings and go to palettes. And I set my minimum palette mode to be global, shared, or normal. So if I set it to normal, and then we exit out, we see if we do the same thing. When I select all my fixtures, give them a locate, and make them all magenta. And now I double tap an empty box. You see that I get a normal instead of the global shared like I did the first time. So that has been the different palette types in Titan. I hope you learned something. Join us on Facebook at Avolites US. Join us here next time. Please subscribe. Thanks. Bye.
Wheel stop.
Roger, wheel stop, Discovery. Welcome back. A great ending to the new beginning.